Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is July 25th. The first trade domino has fallen with Naylor going to Mariners, plus much more. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? It is the 25th of July. The trade deadline is on the 31st. You know what that means? We're about a week away from the trade deadline, and we had our first domino to have fallen yesterday, and another one happening this morning as well. So we're going to get into both of those and more here. But before we do that, let's dive into our series recap. A battle in the AL East. The Yankees in Toronto take on the Blue Jays. Two Yankee errors helped the Blue Jays score 4 runs in an inning to take a 4-1 victory. Then the Yankees go bananas. Jazz Chisholm, Cody Bellinger, and Ben Rice all going yard in Game 2 to even up the series 5-4. Who would get the edge? Well, the Yankees would hit 3 more homers in that third game, but they had 4 errors as a team. The Jays pulled up, scoring 8 runs to take an 8-4 win and taking 2 of 3 over the Yankees to add on a game to their divisional lead. White Sox and the Rays. Brooks Baldwin, Miguel Vargas both go deep for the White Sox for an 8-3 win. How about the kid, Colson Montgomery, hitting his first career MLB home run despite the White Sox losing 4-3 to Tampa. But they come back in Game 3. Montgomery hits his second home run of his career. And how about Kyle Teel going deep, his first career MLB home run? Teel and Montgomery both hitting theirs in this series. The White Sox come back with 6 runs in the 8th to win this one 11-9 to take 2 of 3 from Tampa. O's and Guardians now a 4-game series, and it's J-Ram, Bo Naylor, Kyle Manzardo all going deep for Cleveland, who take a 10-5 win. Jose Ramirez would go deep again, as well as Ramon Laureano, who homered in the first game for Baltimore. Guardians, though, take a 6-3 win. In Game 3, Jackson Holliday goes deep for the Orioles, but the Guardians get another win. Kwan hits a go-ahead single in the 8th as they take a 3-2 victory. Looking for the 4-game sweep, Stephen Kwan has a 2-homer game, but it's Ramon Laureano hitting his 3rd homer of the series to help Baltimore to a 4-3 win as they avoid the sweep and salvage the series, but good on Cleveland for taking 3 of 4. The Brewers and the Mariners, the Brew Crew, with 10 straight wins rolling right now. They score 4 in the 6th en route to their 11th straight win as they win it 6-0. Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, hits his 39th homer for the only run in this game that ends the Brewers' winning streak at 11. Seattle wins it 1-0, but the Brewers would still take this series as they score 8 unanswered, leading them to a 10-2 victory. Milwaukee 2 out of 3 against the Mariners. A's and Rangers in Texas, and it's all Texas here. Michael Hellman getting his first career MLB home run as Josh Young goes deep as well. It's a 7-2 Rangers win. They come in Game 2. It's the big 3. Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, and Corey Seager all going deep for Texas to a 6-2 win. And Corey Seager, well, he would hit another homer in the 3rd game, 2-1 Texas, as the Rangers sweep the A's at home. Angels and Mets now. Brett Beatty would go deep as the Mets would come back. They scored 5 runs in the 7th and 8th innings to help them get a 7-5 win over the Halos. Francisco Alvarez has been called back up, and he's been playing a little bit better. He goes deep in this one, 3-2 Mets. And in the final game, 3-2 Mets, the final, the score in that one. And in the final game, it's Brandon Nimmo, it's Pete Alonso. They both go deep. The Mets sweep the Angels at home. They win that last game 6-3. Giants and Braves now. The Braves score 5 runs in the first inning in the first game. That sets the tone for that game as they take a 9-5 win. In Game 2, hello, Rafael Devers. You're playing first base. His first game at first base. Casey Schmidt goes deep. Wilmer Flores goes deep. It's a 9-0 Giants win, if that's what it means. Devers will be playing a lot more first base. He goes back to the DH in Game 3, and he hits 2 homers. Rafael Devers in the DH spot. Matt Chapman joined him with the homer as well. 9-3 Giants as they take 2 of 3 from the Braves. Padres and Marlins. Kyle Stowers hitting his 22nd homer of the season. Keep breaking out, kid. Padres, though, take that game 2-1, the final there. Marlins would bounce back, though, with a 4-3 win in Game 2 and a 3-2 win in the third game. Jesus Sanchez hitting a 2-run homer as Sandy Alcantara goes 7 strong in what could be his last game as a Marlin at home, as Miami takes 2 of 3 from San Diego. Red Sox and Phillies. This series was wild, and it all started in the weirdest walk-off imaginable. The Phillies would walk it off in the 10th inning on a catcher's interference call. With the bases loaded, they would take a 3-2 victory. They come back in Game 2 with Max Kepler and Kyle Schwarber both going deep, 4-1 Phillies. And then in the final game, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Bryson Stott, JT Realmuto, they would all homer for Philly, but the Red Sox were able to score 6 runs on back-to-back bases-loaded walks and then a grand slam from Rami Gonzalez. We would go into extras, and the Red Sox hold on to this one with Carlos Narvaez getting a homer in the 11th. 9-8 Boston as they avoid the sweep with a wild win. Reds and Nationals now. Josh Bell, he would go deep in a close, high-scoring game, leading the Nats to a 10-8 victory. He would hit another homer in the second game, with the Nationals taking a 6-1 win. But in the last game, it's the Nick Lodolo show as he goes complete game shutout against the Nationals with 8 strikeouts, a 5-0 Reds win to avoid the sweep. The Nats taking 2 of 3. Tigers and Pirates, a very good team versus a not so very good team. And what you thought was happening, well, the opposite was happening. The Pirates, in the first game, they scored all 3 runs in the second for a 3-0 victory. In Game 2, the Pirates scored 6 runs in the first 4 innings, and they held the Tigers to 5, so that's an 8-5 Pirates win. And in the final game, Andrew McCutcheon, he hits a home run. Spencer Horwitz, his first career grand slam, as the Pirates sweep the Tigers. 6-1 is the final there. Big sweep for the Pirates. Royals and Cubs. Jack Caglione, John Rave, and Salvador Perez would all go deep. Salvador Perez would have 2 homers in the game. A 12-4 Royals win. Rich Hill in Game 2 makes Royals history and some of MLB history in general. But the Cubs don't let the Royals score as they take a 6-0 win to even up the series. And in the rubber match, Vinny Pasquantino gets a 2-homer game. Salvador Perez keeps hitting bombs. He's been on a tear recently. Goes deep again. And how about Tyler Tolbert getting his first career home run in Wrigley Field? 8-4 Kansas City. The Royals take 2 of 3 from the Cubs. Cardinals and Rockies now. Wilson Contreras, he goes deep as the Cardinals come back. They score 6 unanswered to win a 6-2, the final to open up this series. In Game 2, though, it's Mickey Moniak, it's Ryan McMahon. They both go deep. Rockies take an 8-4 win to even up the series. And in the match, the Rockies score 4 in the second. Later on, Ezekiel Tovar goes deep. The Rockies win it 6-0 and take 2 of 3 from the Cardinals. Twins and Dodgers. Ohtani goes deep. Pages goes deep. Will Smith, a 2-homer game. It's all Dodgers in a 5-2 victory. Pages and Ohtani would both homer again in Game 2, but the Twins scored 10 runs, 4 of which came in with the help of 3 Dodger errors as they win this one 10-7. The Dodgers kind of gifted this win away, but they would come back as Ohtani homers in his 5th straight game, and then down 1, the Dodgers scored 2 on a walk-off single thanks to who else but Freddie Freeman. The Dodgers win it 4-3 and take 2 of 3 from Minnesota, which brings us to the last series here. Astros in Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks. Bryce Matthews hits his first career MLB home run, and later on hits his second in the game. Good for him. Suarez hitting his 36th homer of the year. 6-3 Astros, the final in that one. Bryce Matthews, he would do it again in Game 2, hitting his third career home run, a go-ahead 2-run blast in the 8th. That homer helps the Astros get a 3-1 win. And in the final game, it's the ex-D-back, Christian Walker. He hits a go-ahead single in the 9th, and that gets the Astros a 4-3 win as they sweep the Diamondbacks on the road. And that's your series recap. All right, now let's get to the game of the week, and I'm taking you to Philly for the third and final game in the series between Boston and Phillies. The Red Sox looking to avoid the sweep here. They would not get it going early here as Kyle Schwarber in the the bottom of the first would hit his 34th home run on the season. A 2-run shot put Philly up 2, and he went back-to-back with Bryce Harper, who hits his 14th homer of the season. And that's very special because it was his 350th career home run. Big flowers for Bryce Harper as Philly took a 3-0 lead. Bottom of the third, Nick Castellanos hits his 13th homer of the season. 4-0 Philly. Bottom 4, Bryson Stott his 7th homer of the season. 5-0 Philly. They're on a roll. Enter the top of the 5th with the bases loaded. Rob Refsnyder would walk and a run would score. Still with the bases loaded, Jarren Duran would walk and another run would score. And then the grand slam. Rami Gonzalez, his 6th homer of the season, makes it from 5-0 with the 2 walks to 5-2 with the grand slam. Boston had a 6-5 lead. They were cooking here. They would hold that lead all the way until the bottom of the 8th, where the 5th Philly homer would happen. JT Realmuto getting his 6th homer of the season, tying this game up at 6. We head to extras innings. In the top of the 10th, Trevor Story, an RBI double, gets Boston the lead, but the Phillies would score in the bottom of the 10th. Kyle Schwarber, a single to keep it at 7, to keep it going into extras. We head to the 11th, where Carlos Narvaez, his 9th homer of the season, a 2-run shot, put Boston up 9-7, and that was important because in the bottom of the 11th, Johan Rojas was able to get an RBI single to score a run, but they couldn't find that extra run as Boston would in fact win this one, avoid the sweep. In the 11th inning, they win it 9-8. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your game of the week. A great game overall here. Let's dive on into the news. We got to talk about Josh Naylor. We have trades. Finally, here we are, basically a week before, 6 days before the deadline. We got our first couple of trades rolling in last night. The Mariners hit that first domino. They are trading for Josh Naylor. The D-backs are sending him his way there. And, there's a lot to talk about specifically with this trade here. And I believe as I start talking about this trade, another trade is currently happening right now. I think, because I just pulled it up and now I'm seeing something else. Now I got to go check Instagram really quickly and make sure my sound is off. But this could be some breaking news here as we are live recording. And it believe that it is the case here. So before we even begin talking about Josh Naylor, we got to talk about Ryan McMahon. Breaking news. Ryan McMahon is heading from the Colorado Rockies to the New York Yankees. And all of a sudden, my episode's out of whack now. We got 3 trades going on here. I just pulled it up to talk about it. And now I've got to pull up Ryan McMahon's stats. We got some breaking news with Ryan McMahon. This is fun. I don't really get to do this. It's not live, but it is live. I'm not going to, reset now and worry about all this stuff here. So, yeah, I guess we got to talk about 3 trades here. We'll start with Naylor here. Seattle needed it. Seattle needed a big, powerful left-handed bat. They needed a first baseman. And Josh Naylor was kind of the perfect fit here. Naylor's had a pretty solid year in his first year with Arizona. 93 games played. He's got 102 hits, had 11 home runs, 59 RBIs, a 292 batting average, and an 807 OPS. This is following his All-Star year with Cleveland last year, where he put up 1.5 WAR, had a very hot, start to the season, cooled off in the second half, but Naylor's been pretty much what he's been advertised here for. And I think that's the key thing, is that Josh Naylor is a good player. And I think Seattle is in a position where it's like they have fallen to Houston year after year after year recently. And, they're in a current wild card position. That's not, anything to scoff about. The AL is a tricky, league. And the Astros are a hard team to beat. So I think by them making this move, it shows how dedicated they are to making their team as good as they can. This is kind of a year we haven't seen that. Naylor's going to be a free agent after this season. He was traded in his last year of his deal from Cleveland to Arizona, and now he's going to be heading to Seattle. So this is going to be his fourth team in his journey. People forget he was with the Padres in 2019 before getting traded during COVID, that 2020 year, to Cleveland, where he kind of made his name for himself. But Josh Naylor will head to Seattle. And the big thing for me here with Naylor specifically is that, in the series recap, we talked about how the Astros swept the Diamondbacks at home. That could have been the nail in the coffin for Arizona as a whole here. They're 50 and 53. They're 5.5 out of the wild card and 10 games back of the division. Let me tell you, the division's out of reach. There's too many obstacles in their way. There's too much that would have to go wrong for the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants. And honestly, the same could be said for the wild card. A 5.5 game lead, the Giants are ahead of you. The Padres are ahead of you. You'd have to worry about one of the Brewers and Cubs. You'd have to worry about the Reds, the Cardinals, one of the Mets or Phillies. There is a lot to go on. You're 3 games behind 500. The season kind of got away from you guys. So I think the sweep that they just suffered by the hands of the Astros, kind of put the end here for the Diamondbacks. So I wouldn't be surprised if, Josh Naylor is the first to fall here. They've got plenty of guys who are in contract years here. You could see guys like Zach Gallen and Eugenio Suarez, Merrill Kelly, all guys I feel like are definitely guys that will be traded between now and the 31st. So keep that in mind. That's a big thing that the D-backs are trading away Josh Naylor. I forget exactly the top prospects here that they are getting. And I say top prospects. They're not getting top prospects. They're getting 2 guys. But just something to think about here. With the trade deadline, I'll be talking more about the actual players rather than the prospects, unless there's any crazy big prospects. But Josh Naylor will head. I think 2 guys are heading back to Arizona. So that was the first trade there. Next up, we had the Mets, who traded for Soto. They had Juan Soto. They were like, hey, this guy is really good. We should maybe go and trade for another Soto, because what's better than getting 1 Soto, and that's having 2 Sotos. So that's what they do. They go out, they get Gregory Soto from the Baltimore O's, a 2-time All-Star here, having a really solid year, a 3.96 ERA in 45 games, 36 and a third innings pitched with 44 strikeouts. He's a big lefty arm as well, 6'1", 234 pounds. He's a presence on the mound, been a reliable guy for both the Tigers and the Phillies in the past as well. So he will head to New York, back in the NL East. He played for the Phillies, had to play against the Mets. Now he's going to be with the Mets, playing against the Phillies in the battle there. So that is where we're at with Gregory Soto here. And we'll see kind of what kind of impact he can make on that Mets bullpen. A big left-hander like him is certainly an add that the Mets needed and the Mets need to go and get. But yeah, and then I guess here we got to talk about Ryan McMahon. I mean, this stuff is just breaking in now. It's just developing. But Ryan McMahon is headed to New York. And to be honest, I saw this one completely coming. To be honest, all 3 of these trades have been... I think really on par with what fans were expecting. I mean, these are things that the analysts are getting right. People are saying, the Mariners need a lefty first baseman. Well, who's there? Josh Naylor, perfect fit, and then it happens. The Mets need some lefty arms in their bullpen. Who's available? Gregory Soto. It's a perfect fit. I could see this happening, and guess what? It happens. The Yankees, we'll talk about, I have this coming up in the episode. Like, we're talking about the Yankees defense here. Their shit was atrocious, and guess what? Their third baseman hole is an alarming hole. So what do? They need a third baseman. Who are third basemen available? The Rockies and Ryan McMahon. It makes sense. I saw it happening, and now it happens. The Rockies will receive 2 prospects in the return. The identities of those prospects have not been yet publicly reported, but the Yankees are making a move, and it's a brilliant move from the Yankees. Ryan McMahon, an all-star last year in 2024. He's been in with the Rockies since 2017. It's kind of blown my mind how much Ryan McMahon has been around here. He's in his 9th year in the big leagues. He debuted at 22. He's now 30 years old, all with Colorado. And to be honest with you, pretty outstanding numbers as a whole. I mean, his OPS has never been able to get over 800, but it's also never gotten below 700. He's been a really solid all-around hitter. You go back, to 2019 even, outside of COVID, his home run totals, 24, 23, 20, 23, 20. He's at 16 right now. He's on pace to kind of be, at that same, 20 to 24 numbers. Like his career has been extremely solid. You go look at his WAR, 1.9, 4 WAR in 2021, 3.2, 2.9, 2.5. Like, he's been a really solid player, really solid third baseman for the Rockies. Kind of a guy and a face there, really, for that franchise. So it's definitely a little weird. We've seen the Rockies trade away a face of the franchise type player playing third base before, and no one ever done that to the Cardinals. At least this time, it doesn't seem like the Rockies are getting, having to pay any money to send McMahon to the Yankees. But still, a solid player. A really solid ad for the Yankees. The bat's nice, but the defense is a little bit what you want to look at. Also, he can make some nice plays, and at least he knows the position. You don't have to stick some guy out there who you've brought up from your farm system who doesn't know the position as well, who's going to commit the errors, who's lacking the confidence. It's a great move all the way around. Ryan McMahon, a great ad, and yeah, really good stuff all the way around here. So that's where we're at for the trades. 3 trades happening, one of them breaking in currently. Speaking of trades, let's talk about some other guys who I think could be on the move here. I went through some of the bottom feeder teams here, teams like the Diamondbacks, Baltimore, Atlanta even, of course the usual Miami, Pittsburgh, etc. I've kind of carved together some interesting names who are in their contract years, or at least have been talked about by analysts, who could definitely be on the move. As I mentioned, Arizona by trading away Naylor, that opens up the conversation for Zach Gallen, Eugenio Suarez, Merrill Kelly. These are guys who are all being talked about and shopped about by the D-backs. Baltimore has a slew of guys. Zach Eflin could be a top guy rotation for someone, or at least a middle guy. Charlie Morton. They have Gary Sanchez. So if you need a backup catcher with lots of power, he's been in postseason games before. He knows what he's doing. He can handle his staff. Sanchez is an okay guy. And then you have the 2 lefty bats there, Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins, both free agents, both, having solid years. Mullins kind of a down year for him. O'Hearn an all-star year for him. So those guys could definitely be on the move. The Nationals have Michael Soroka on the final year there. Josh Bell. The Nationals have traded him before. They were able to get James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, CJ Abrams. All those guys came from the Josh Bell trade that happened last time. Of course, the Nats also had to give up Juan Soto in that deal, but still, Josh Bell available. Kyle Finnegan, I expect to be available, a closer. Help out a team in the bullpen. They also have some shortstops there. Paul DeYoung, Ahmed Rosario, both those guys could be on the move. The Angels, always a slew of guys like Kikuchi, Tyler Anderson, Yoel Moncada, Luis Rengifo in a contract year for him, as well as Kenley Jansen. More bullpen help, more pitching. You can always use a lot of that. This could be a really good chance for the Angels to kind of stock up their farm system a little bit, because it looks like they're kind of trending in a better direction, but at the same time, it's the Angels, so I never like to say that. The Braves, Marcelo Zuna, Raciel Iglesias, both guys, on contract years, could be moved here. The White Sox, remember they traded for Aaron Savali from the Brewers earlier this year. We were like, well, I don't know why you would do that, really, because you're kind of trash, but I guess it brings in some seats. Well, maybe it brings in another prospect, Savali could be a decent arm for a playoff team here. They could trade him, get someone better than the guy they traded up for Milwaukee. Michael A. Taylor, a fourth outfielder, a defense kind of guy, and a playoff hero before. So Taylor could be on the move there for the White Sox as well. The Pirates have a slew of guys, IKF, Andrew Heaney, David Bednar, Mitch Keller, Tommy Pham. I mean, the list goes on in Pittsburgh there. Of course, I had Ryan McMahon here with German Marquez. McMahon needs to get taken off that list. But watch out, German Marquez in a contract year. Wouldn't be surprised if the Rockies deal him also. The Reds have some guys, Nick Martinez, Emilio Pagan, Taylor Rogers, some pitching help. Go talk to Cincy. And then the big one for me is Sandy Alcantara. Obviously a really bad year for him, but he is a Cy Young winner. He's a Cy Young type pitcher, and he could be, obviously come back from injury, but he could be a big add to some team at the deadline here. So very excited for all this stuff, and some really strong trade targets still in the block here with 6 days to go. So who will get traded next? Will we have another breaking news at some point in this episode? We'll find out there. Let's get into some other fun news here that happened. I mentioned a little bit in kind of the series recap. I just wanted to give it its own second of limelight. Ohtani, he's hit 5 straight games with a home run. He's going for number 6 today. It's the longest streak in the MLB this season. No other player has hit 5 homers straight, and I'll be looking for his 6th homer today. I mentioned in the big Red Sox Phillies game, the game of the week, Bryce Harper hitting his 350th career home run. I've always loved Bryce Harper. I think this guy is phenomenal. I remember, when he first got called up, and he's a cover on a magazine at such a young age, and he's like the next big thing. He's surrounded by all this hype and all this stuff, and usually prospects like that, they tend to fade with so much pressure put on them. I mean, when you have so much pressure being put on you, it's so hard to live up to those expectations. Bryce Harper's been that exception. He's always been able to live up to those expectations, always has done anything he can to help his team, whether it was the Nationals or now at the Phillies. He's been an absolute joy to watch. You might not love him, but, he's been everything and advertised ever since he was young. So Bryce Harper, phenomenal career. Keep it going. He'll get to 400 easily. Also wanted to mention that Rafael Devers, we mentioned that he played first base for the Giants the first time that second game against the Braves. They won that game. He got moved back to the DH for the third and final game of that series, and he hit 2 home runs. So it sounds like the formula there could be play Devers at first base, win that game, put him back to DH, he'll go crazy, and the Giants could get on a roll here. But I feel like I have to talk about that because it's been such a story with Boston from the beginning of the year to when he was traded, to the Will Clark stuff that I don't think I talked about on the podcast because I think I was away and I never brought that up when I came back. And now he's actually playing first base. So Devers' kind of first base arc from the beginning of the season to now over the last 6 months, let's just say it's completed. I don't think we have to worry about this any more than we do. And the last thing that I want to talk about here, kind of in the fun news that I thought was kind of fun, is Bryce Matthews. I talked about him. He hit his first career homer, and it was a second career homer, his first multi-homer game. If I had a nickel for every time that happened this year, I would have 3 nickels, which is not a lot, but it is pretty crazy that it happened 3 times. Bryce Matthews is not the first guy to hit his first career home run and his first career multi-homer game in the same game here, because John Rave did it just last weekend, and Jack Caglione did it earlier in the year as well. The Royals had it happen twice to them, which is even more insane, but that's 3 times we've had a player hit their first career homer and then their second career homer in the same game this year. And I don't think that's ever happened before that I remember talking about in the last 2-3 years since I created this podcast. But I thought that was really fun. I thought I wanted to mention it, and I did mention it. So there you go. Let's talk about some top teams right now in baseball. As we get to, August and the dog days of summer here, we have 6 teams out of our 30 who are at 60 wins. In the AL, we have the Tigers from the Central, the Astros from the West, and the Blue Jays from the East. On the NL side, we have the Dodgers from the West and the Cubs and Brewers from the Central. No one from the East yet. Both the Mets and Phillies, though, closing in. These are the 6 teams that have kind of been on the roll here. Dodgers a little bit of a slump. Tigers a little bit of a slump. Brewers and the Blue Jays, the big hot teams here. But these are the 6 teams that we really should be watching. Of course, the Blue Jays actually had a phenomenal series against the Yankees. They took 2 of 3 from New York, and they have now the season series against the Yankees. So if they were to end up in a tied for the division, the Blue Jays have a tiebreaker over the Yankees. That's a big win for them. And a big overall for the Blue Jays, because in the month of July, they've been incredible, especially at home. They've played the Yankees 7 times at home. They won 6 of those 7. And it doesn't get any better when it's the Yankees that are kind of doing it to themselves. I mean, I was going to talk about it. I mentioned that I was going to talk about it, but here I am actually going to be talking about it. The Yankees defense, I'm a Blue Jays guy. I like the Jays. They're a great team. And I went to one of these games. I went to 2 of these games, actually, against New York at the Rogers Center. And, the Yankees defense was atrocious. They have committed, in 12 games against the Jays this season, they've committed 10 errors against the Blue Jays. And it's even the non-errors, they're making these major mistakes. Bellinger lost the ball in the lights. That allowed Ernie to get a triple. You had bad throws by Volpe, bad throws by Jazz, bad throws by Escara, Peraza. It's just been a whole, the infield defense is a mess. Jonathan Dominguez doesn't track balls well in the outfield. You had Trent Grisham have a ball go through his glove. It's pretty much everyone. Ben Rice booted the ball. It was really bad defense, and that's not to take away the Blue Jays, because they still won those games even without the errors, but the errors make it look a lot worse between these 2 teams, and that's the difference. So, I mean, Yankees, I was going to say, what are we going to do here? But they handle, Ryan McMahon. I think they could still add maybe a defense kind of infielder, to kind of, jump into the games late to kind of help with the defense if they're up. But then also pitching with the Yankees have to do something. They're falling a little bit here into the kind of the wild card slump with Boston and with Seattle, when they really should be the team that is fighting Toronto for the division. So we got to see some change here for New York, because otherwise it could get pretty ugly for the Yankees here. Going on now, we have a couple of other news here, and we have a DFA, an option, and a retirement. So I'll kind of go through those really quickly here. The option comes from Tampa Bay. They send Taj Bradley back down to AAA. I always think of Taj Bradley as this really solid player. Really solid pitcher, has some great outings for Tampa Bay. But then I pulled up his baseball reference. He's kind of not been anything that incredible. 2023, he had a 0.4 WAR, negative 0.4 WAR. He has a negative 0.4 WAR this year. He had a 1.7 WAR last year, but he was 8-11 with a 4.11 ERA. I get it, Tampa Bay wasn't anything crazy, but in his big league career so far in the 3 years since 2023, he has a 0.9 WAR. He's 19-25 and a 4.7 ERA. I remember this guy, this guy can shove it, but then I also guess he gets beat up sometimes. His most recent game against the White Sox, he pitched an inning and 2/3, giving up 4 earned runs there. But then the game before that, he got a win against Baltimore with 6 innings, 3 hits, 6 Ks. It really is an up and down for him. So I guess the Rays are sending him back down to kind of get some consistency because he is a pretty solid pitcher, but he is back in the minors. The Cardinals, they DFA'd Eric Fetty over the week here. This is coming after he got blown up against the Rockies, a part of the Rockies taking 2 of 3 against the Cardinals. 3 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, and it's just been one of those years for Eric Fetty. 3-10, a 5.22 ERA in 20 starts, and a negative 0.2 WAR. Not great there. I mean, when you look at his career as a whole, 33-52, a 5.87 WAR, 4.87 ERA though. It's not been all that. It was just kind of last year. you take away last year, I mean, this guy is not a great pitcher. Last year was very good. He had a 5.6 WAR. He was 9-9. Started the year with the White Sox, got traded to the Cardinals, a 3.3 ERA, very solid all the way around. But Eric Fedde, he got DFA'd. He'll probably be looking for a new home here at the deadline. So the Cardinals shopping him around, trying to see if they can get someone to bite on Fedde. And he can still have a decent start here and there, be a useful guy, but it's going to be a lot to get Eric Fedde right now. So Cardinals say that's enough of that because, the Cardinals are going for it by DFAing Eric Fedde. Like I said earlier, when you check the standings, they're about 2-3 games out of a wild card spot right now. So I mean, if we see the Cardinals ad, maybe they think that this team's good enough to go. They're one game above 500. Will they do nothing and see if their guys get better? I don't know, but that's where we're at right there. And then in terms of our retirement, a guy who has bounced around. How much has he bounced around? Well, he's believed to be the most traded guy in MLB history. It is Jesse Chavez, who has announced that he is stepping away from the big leagues. He has bounced around from team to team, let me tell you that much. Debuting in 2008 with Pittsburgh. The most he spent on a team was Atlanta, spent 6 years with the Braves, but that was all in random stints. He kind of was always on another team, then got traded back to Atlanta, goes to another team, ends up back on Atlanta. Like, it was never like all kind of consistent. Of the last 3 years, 2023, 2024, and 2025, every time he was in the big leagues was with Atlanta, so it looks like he was with the Braves this whole time, but he's jumped around from team to team. He's been with the Braves, been with the Oakland Athletics, the Texas Rangers, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Angels, the Blue Jays, the Cubs, the Royals, the Dodgers. In his 18-year career, 6.6 WAR, 51 wins, 66 losses, a 4.27 ERA. He's had some big games. He's had some big moments, including being on that Braves team in 2021. He is a World Series champion. And Jesse Chavez, one of those guys, he's going to be 42 in a couple of weeks here. So I think he's decided that it's time to go on and live the rest of his life. So congratulations, Jesse Chavez, on a phenomenal career. Enjoy the retirement. Always fun watching you pitch, and we'll be seeing you in the future, I guess, at some point, probably with the Braves, because that's what he was always known to do. All right, now let's get into some injury updates from the week here. The Rays put Brandon Lau on the 10-day IL with ankle tendonitis. Lance McCullers Jr. ends up on the 10-day IL with a blister. German Marquez on the 15-day IL with bicep tendonitis. That might make it hard for the Rockies to trade him. Felix Bautista from Baltimore on the 15-day IL with shoulder discomfort. The A's lose Denzel Clark on the 10-day IL with a strained groin. Tanner Scott from the Dodgers on the 15-day IL with elbow inflammation. Nick Lofton on the 7-day IL with a concussion. And then Chris Martin on the 15-day IL with a strained calf. So those were all your injuries from the week here. As we'll get into our outstanding performances from the week, we had some great pitching performances, starting with Kevin Gausman against the Yankees. 7 innings, 4 hits, an earned run, 2 walks, and 8 Ks. I almost predicted this. Brandon Woodruff, 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 5 Ks. Then you get Christopher Sanchez, 9 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and 12 Ks. Rich Hill was back at it, 45 years old, his 14th team, tying, forget who he's tying, 5 innings, 6 hits, an earned run, 2 walks, and a strikeout. That's incredible there. Matthew Boyd, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, a walk, and 6 Ks. Logan Gilbert, 6 1/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 10 strikeouts. Nick Lodolo, 9 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 8 Ks. Complete game shutout for him. Sandy Alcantara has not been on this list much this year, but this one was good. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 4 Ks. What could be his final days as a Marlin. Chris Paddock, 6 innings, 4 hits, an earned run, no walks, and 8 Ks. Tyler Glasnow, 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, an earned run, a walk, and 12 Ks. And then Brandon Walter for Houston, 7 innings, 4 hits, an earned run, a walk, and 5 Ks. Those are your outstanding performances. And now we'll check in with the stat leaderboard. Let's run it up. Not much has changed. The average has dropped for Judge. He's now at 345. Hits, it is still Judge, 129. Home runs is Cal Raleigh, still with 39. Then you have a new RBI leader, Eugenio Suarez. He's been mashing balls, hitting bombs. He's up to 86 RBIs. Juan Soto is at 97 runs still. Did I say Juan? Shohei Ohtani is still at runs still. Shohei Ohtani leads in 97 runs. Soto leads in walks with 82. I think I mixed that up for a second there. Stolen bases was Jose Caballero. It still is, but he is tied now back with O'Neal Cruz, who has 33 stolen bases. They're tied. OPS, Aaron Judge, 1.170, still leads the league there. For pitchers, it was a tie between Freddie Peralta and Max Fried. It is now just Freddie Peralta. The Brewers are winning, which means Freddie's winning, and that means 12 wins for him. He is now leading the league in wins. ERA, it is still Paul Skeens, 1.91. In strikeouts, it is still Garrett Crochet, 165 strikeouts on the year. And then for saves, it is still Robert Suarez, 29 saves on the year, looking for his 30th save of this season here. As we'll get in now to our upcoming series, what's coming up for the weekend here. Starting things off, the Rockies are in Baltimore to take on the O's. The Dodgers are in Boston to take on the Red Sox. 2018 World Series rematch, always fun for these two teams to match up. Phillies into New York to take on the Yankees. That's a big series for the Yankees after they just lost to the Blue Jays, who are in Detroit taking on the Tigers. And that's very important as these teams are at the top of the AL. We have a battle of the Chicago teams, Chicago Cubs taking on the Chicago White Sox at right field. Nationals at Twins. Guardians at Royals. If either of these teams are going to take on the Tigers and try to battle them for the division, this is a very important series, a big sweep or get swept series. A's and Astros, they'll play for. Mariners and Angels will also play for. You have the Braves and Rangers. Marlins at Brewers. Rays at Reds. D-backs at Pirates. Padres and Cardinals will play for, and we'll wrap up with the Mets and the Giants. Another team playing for is the Blue Jays and the Tigers. They have a 4-game series. And that brings me to something new but old but new at the same time, the series highlight. I'm going to be talking about this, pretty much doing one of these from this point forward, both on Mondays and Fridays. I'll be looking at the 15 games on the docket and picking one that will have the most playoff value. I was thinking, is it too early to do this? But then I thought it doesn't matter because I'm excited that we're talking about playoff baseball already. And for me, the big series highlight of the weekend is the Blue Jays and the Tigers. They start this 4-game set with the Blue Jays a half-a-game lead over the Tigers in the AL. Jays, the best team in the AL, half a game up on the Tigers. The Jays are 60-42 to the Tigers 60-43. So the Tigers have played an extra game and have lost that extra game. But this could be a big series. Of course, game 1 already was played. It happened yesterday on Thursday. So if you know the outcome, you know that the standings have already changed. For game 2 is today, though, it's going to be Jose Barrios for the Blue Jays, a 6-4 record and a 3.87 ERA. He is facing Kaidir Montero, who is 4-2 with a 4.28 ERA. Game 3 for Saturday, Kevin Gausman, 7-7 with a 4.01 ERA, taking on Tarek Skubal, who is 10-3 with a 2.19 ERA, coming back from the paternity list, just had his child. So Skubal is probably going to throw a no-hitter that day, if not a perfect game. Watch out for that one. And then game 4 on Sunday, Max Scherzer. He's 1-0 with a 5.14 ERA versus Jack Flaherty, who is 5-10 with a 4.77 ERA. This is a big series for both teams. Obviously, the Blue Jays coming in hot. They just took care of the Yankees. They're 6-4 in their last 10 and are feeling very good about themselves. They're 37-17 at home. They've done a phenomenal job of taking care of teams on at home. The Tigers, on the other hand, in a bit of a slump. They're 1-9 in their last 10. I believe 10 or 1-11 or 1-10 in their last 11. It's been a really poor showing. We talked about the Tigers having this 12-game lead. Well, they got swept by the Pirates, and the Guardians took 3 of 4 against the Baltimore Orioles this past week. So that lead is now down to 8, which is still a lot. But when you look at the Tigers, who are 1-9 in their last 10, and then you look at the Guardians, who are 8-2 in their last 10, a 3-game losing streak for the Tigers, a 4-game winning streak for Cleveland, give or take. I realize that I'm not looking at the exact standings here because I have to go back. 4-game losing streak for the Tigers. The Guardians were on a 3-game winning streak, but obviously lost against Baltimore to finish up the 4-game series there. But the tides are changing, The Tigers were the only team that had a double-digit games ahead over their second-place team. Cleveland's at 8. The Royals are at 9.5. For the best-case scenario for the Tigers is to get some wins against the Blue Jays and hope Cleveland and Kansas City split their series or, don't get a sweep in that series. But if one of those teams sweep and the Tigers struggle against the Blue Jays, that 8-game difference, that 9.5-game difference, we could be talking about a 5-game difference, worst case scenario here for the Tigers. So it's a big series to watch out for. That's why it is our first ever really series highlight to get and going talking about here. Which brings us to the final part of today's episode, and that is our playoff predictor. If the season ended today, who is playing who? Well, the Boston Red Sox are in the 6th seed. They take on the Tigers, who are now the 3 seed. Mariners in the 5 seed, taking on the Yankees in the 4 seed. The Tigers beat the Red Sox. Yankees beat the Mariners. We head to the ALDS where the Tigers take on the Astros and the Yankees take on the Blue Jays. And we just saw how those series went down. The Astros beat the Tigers, who have been bad. Blue Jays beat the Yankees, who have no defense. So our ALCS matchup are the Houston Astros and the Toronto Blue Jays. And right now, the Blue Jays are hot. They keep finding ways to win, and they'll do so against the Astros. They head to a World Series. On the NL side, the Padres are holding on to their 6th seed. The Mets have the division lead so far. They're in the 3 seed. Phillies in the 5 seed taking on the Cubs in the 4 seed currently. That is a Padres win over the Mets and a Cubs win over the Phillies. So our NLDS matchup, Padres at Dodgers, and the Cubs are playing the Brewers. The Brewers are the first team right now. They're the best team in the NL right now. The best team in baseball actually right now is the Milwaukee Brewers. Helps when you win 11 straight. The Dodgers will beat the Padres and the Brewers will beat the Cubs. So our NLCS matchup is the Dodgers at the Brewers. We've seen this before, but it's going to end a different way as the Milwaukee Brewers will beat the Dodgers. So we have our 2 1 seeds in the World Series matchup. The Blue Jays, the best team in the AL, taking on the Milwaukee Brewers, the best team in the NL. And it is the Brewers' year. Finally, they would win their first World Series. If the season ended today, they would be the 2025 World Series champions, Milwaukee Brewers. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? This was a pretty big episode. Thank you for sticking around and tuning in with us here today. For the episode here, I'm going to double check the trades just one more time just to see if anything else had come out here. But it is not. We had some breaking news with Ryan McMahon, who is also one thing I didn't mention that I'm going to mention here in part of the outro. Ryan McMahon is on a contract. This isn't just a one and done deal. He's got a lasting deal with the Rockies here still. Right now in 2025, he is owed $4.1 million. But the following 2 years, in 2016 and 2017, he's owed $16 million already. That was the extension that he got with the Rockies. So the Yankees will have their third baseman from now until 2028, realistically. So you got 2.5 years with Ryan McMahon right now as the Yankees. unless they eventually trade him. But that's something that I did not mention here. But there is no other breaking news, which means I can finally rest. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, everybody, so much for tuning on in. We'll talk about more trades that could happen over the weekend on Monday. And then, of course, next week we'll be talking about all of the trades that go down before the deadline. So it's going to be a crazy episode, crazy couple of episodes coming on up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, everybody, so much. And I will see you on Monday.